Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as usual, let's go over Tesla. Let's go over the market. Let's talk about what happened today and what we can expect going into the final day of the week tomorrow and July in general. So if you enjoy, please don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. And I'm not a financial advisor, but if you enjoy my technical analysis, again, I do share my thoughts with members every single day, guys, as the market is open and trading. So definitely check that out. That link is, of course, down below. Just press the join button. And I have a nice handy dandy little chart here, which, by the way, on July 13th, I will be increasing prices by just $2 a month for every tier. Not a whole lot. I'm still trying to keep it ethical. But if you ever wanted to lock in your price, anyone that subscribes to their tier before July 13th locks in this price for as long as they remain a member, technically forever, if you really just remain a member forever. So again, thought I'd mention that. Definitely check it out. The link is below. But jumping into a Tesla, closing the day with a respectable just over 1% on the day, closing at 425.5. So what does this mean moving forward, guys? Well, first and foremost, let's not forget tomorrow morning, usually between 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., we get the delivery numbers on Tesla, right? We get the delivery numbers, see how things have been going so far, and that gives you an idea as to what to expect for earnings as well, right? Because, if it's really good delivery numbers, people will start, kind of getting a better idea as to how earnings can potentially look and vice versa. So something to consider. So it's kind of like a mini earnings tomorrow morning. Now, Tesla has had a pretty phenomenal rally, right? We have had a huge rally. The SMI is now getting to the top of the range, right? Again, when we were near the bottom of the range, again, it's not just like, oh, the second it gets there, we just bottom out, right? It took a few days, of course, but just something to look forward to. And now we're at the opposite end of the spectrum. So moving forward for Tesla, and especially with the weekly here, I'm looking at this in a few ways. So the weekly hasn't truly got a breakout yet, right? The weekly needs to start closing pretty much right above this trend line, which is really in the upper 420s. And that's when the weekly candle breaks out. Technically speaking, with delivery numbers tomorrow and tomorrow being the final day of the week, if we get any sell-off off of the numbers for whatever reason, whether it's bad numbers, whether it's just simple, kind of sell the news type event, profit taking, whatever, who cares the reason? A sell-off is a sell-off. This will continue showing that we're not ready to break out yet, at least on the weekly time frame, and that can absolutely mean that we continue kind of consolidating here between, really just the low 400s region overall, right around this area, before we finally just actually get that weekly candle closure above this trend line, and then we can start getting a nice breakout, and I think Tesla can make its way very nicely towards 450 and 470s. But that's one step at a time. Now, let's say we do get a sell-off. Honestly, it really wouldn't shock me. I mean, maybe it's too obvious, who knows, but it wouldn't fully shock me if we get a small sell-off. But the good news is the fact that we now have strong support beneath us to hold the stock back up on any potential sell-off. So let's talk about that. If we do sell off on delivery numbers for, again, whatever reason, there's a few levels to watch for. The first of which is going to start pretty much near 420 or the upper 14, so like 417, 18, around there, all the way down to even, honestly, technically speaking, almost as low as 405. Now, if we come down that low, I do want to see it to be bought up very fast, very quickly. But you have to understand, we took about, I don't know, what was this, 3 weeks or something like that? This maybe even a month, whatever duration this was. I mean, this was what? Let's say June 5th. Pretty much a month, almost a month, right? This whole region right here was just a massive area of resistance, right? As low as technically even like, that 405 or so region to as high as these, 415 to the upper 14s. This whole region right here was just a massive area of resistance. So it really wouldn't honestly shock me if we get a move down. Believe me, I hope we just rocket higher. It'll be way better for me as well. Don't get me wrong. But, I'm trying to be objective here. And don't be too surprised if we see something like this. But again, the good news is the fact that now we have this whole region as support. Now we have this whole layer that was a resistance as support. So watch for any drawdowns on the delivery numbers. Can drop as much as, maybe just over 2%, can go all the way up to about a 5% drop. So between 2 to 5% of a drop, if the drop is what we get, really wouldn't shock me. That would just revert back to the EMAs, get this nice little SMI cool off over here, and again, come back into old resistance, now support, and we can round off from there. So that's the way I'll be looking at it. Obviously, the ideal scenario, because even though the weekly hasn't broken out, the daily is giving some small signs of breaking out. I mean, we did technically close above this trend line. Like I said, though, I like to give this usually a few days. One candle isn't always enough for such a breakout, right? Ideally, I want to see a few daily candles in a row closing above this trend line, which would imply that we continue holding pretty much 420 or higher. We'll have to see. This is technically a breakout, but it is just one candle. So I don't like to jump to major conclusions, especially right before essentially a mini earnings event tomorrow morning. So just keep that in mind, guys. Keep that in mind. But again, any drawdown from here, watch for a quick pullback and essentially a mean reversion back to the daily exponential moving averages. And like I said, turning this whole region that was a resistance into support. Now, on the flip side, if we do rocket higher, if we do rally higher, what I want to see for Tesla moving forward, and this is going to be similar to what we saw pretty much the same time last year, was here when we also had this pennant forming, right? And then we finally broke out of it right here. We had that nice pump, and then we had about a 1 to 2 week sell-off, pretty much just retested it, and then we ultimately resumed higher. Something like that is what I would like to see, which means that Tesla, either we come a bit higher into the mid 430s once again, or maybe even come up into the mid 440s, so 430s to 440s region, anywhere up here. And then we from there reject. From there we rally back down. We drop back down. And from there we come down to retest it just like we did last year. Pretty much the same setup. It's going to take a week or two like we saw last week as well. And then we resume higher off of that. So that's like the more short-term bullish, but still would require a retracement. Or again, we just get the retracement starting tomorrow, come back, turn this region into support, and then we head higher. One step at a time, guys. But again, let this play out. There's no reason to try and, pretend like you have a crystal ball here. Let it play out. It's a big event. It's a mini earnings. Who knows how it's going to go? We don't really know how good or bad the numbers will be. Maybe it's way worse than expected or way better than expected. We just simply do not have the answer to this. So again, if you've been in this name since pretty much all the way down here, if you bought it down here, congratulations. I personally entered pretty much right here, but you have a lot of cushion. You have a lot of cushion. So again, let it do its thing, guys. Let it do its thing. Don't get too over, crazy about it. Now, SpaceX is an interesting one. So SpaceX has been, again, this is why I don't usually like trading too much when it comes to these like fresh IPOs, as they still find their footing. But SpaceX, as far as I'm concerned, is searching for a higher low here, right? That is what I personally believe, right? Again, we had this massive downward pressure here. We ended up holding near the IPO lows, essentially, right? 150. And then we ended up getting a beautiful pump higher, rejected right at this resistance level. That was that pivot support here, now pivot resistance here. As far as I'm concerned, there is an argument to be made that this is a fresh higher high, and now we're essentially looking for that higher low. We're dancing right around the 620 Fibonacci here in the upper 150s with room down to about 153, 154 to the downside on the green Fibonacci's. But, this is definitely an area right here, pretty much about 153 to about 158. This is an area that if the bulls really want to send this higher, they want to start holding around this area, guys. This is a crucial area to start holding to search for that higher low, and then we can resume higher with stronger confidence would be on a reclaim above 163 to 165 again, because that would start breaking back above this little resistance level here that we just had today. And then it will start kind of, recreating those higher highs, higher lows on the 1 hour as well. Or in that case, it would be even shorter term, more like a 15-minute time frame, but you get the idea. The point is the fact that ideally the bulls want to be searching for a higher low over here off of this higher high, higher low, and now we want to hopefully find that and resume higher off of that. So we'll continue watching, guys. We'll continue watching. It does help that the space theme is heating up a little bit. We talked about Rocket Lab yesterday. I do think they could also see a little bit lower, but they are starting to get a little more interesting once again. So it does help the picture there. But again, one step at a time. Again, you have to understand this is a name that it's higher risk. Again, it's still finding its footing. We don't have that much data and candles to work with yet. Where can it go? Where can it not go? We just simply don't have this information yet. So it is just simply a higher risk stock at the moment, right? It's just important to understand that, which is why whenever I do any trades with it, I just, I size lower than I normally would, just because it's just simply higher risk. The broader market, SPY looking pretty solid, right? SPY got that beautiful, beautiful breakout yesterday, held very nicely today. It is red slightly, but not a whole lot, especially compared to the Qs. Obviously, semis were not having fun today, so the Qs are down way more than SPY. SPY pretty much flat, looking fantastic. I think SPY looks good. I really do. Nice breakout here, nice hold of the 921 EMAs, holding back above it. And pretty much what we want to see and make sure is the fact that 739, 740-ish continues holding as well as it has been, and we kind of just round off of it, moving higher off of there. If we start closing well below the 740s, guys, that does open up a weakness back down closer to about the low 730s, so keep that in mind. But as long as SPY can hold this sort of 740 region, yeah, I think it can just slowly continue grinding higher, with the next resistance point being the bigger one, I should say, pretty much today's high, followed by about 756, which will be up here. So something to watch for. And the Qs is in a similar boat. Again, a little bit weaker, obviously, because memory, semis, etc., had a bit of a painful day today. So the Qs some rotation happening because other names woke up a bit, but still, right, having a bit of more issues. Now, pretty much what we're looking for on the Qs, guys, is very simple. We're looking for any single drawdown to the upper 17s to the low 720s to be support and to ideally round off. But this does look like a bigger pennant overall forming that we can continue zigzagging between until we either break below the pennant or finally break above the pennant, which the bigger signal would be a loss of about 705 or worse on the Qs would be a bit of a red flag, admittedly. However, on the flip side or the bright side, a breakout and hold back above 740 on the Qs would actually be a very bullish sign. So you're essentially looking for that to really determine where the next I guess movement, if you will be going, especially in the Qs and probably the whole market itself, right? Because at the end of the day, SPY will still follow the Qs just to a much less volatility level. But nonetheless, something to keep in mind moving forward, guys. But that's probably the main two levels you want to be watching for. Again, pretty much 705 and about 740, guys. VIX, not much to say about VIX, finding some support back where it did before. So we'll have to see if we get any potential VIX spike going into tomorrow as we enter the long weekend, but not a whole lot to say right now. Again, any single rallies, it has been just slowly kind of getting rejected. Maybe we are setting up a bit bigger of like a kind of pennant here, but nothing crazy. The VIX doesn't look too overly concerning for me right now, which is a good sign for bulls, but we'll see. If something's, if things start spiking up and getting interesting, we'll talk about it. Palantir rallying right into the resistance we talked about yesterday, right? We talked about the mid 120s to almost even 130 itself. Guys, this was a huge support level, right? This was a tremendous support level. Now, as far as I'm concerned, it's a resistance level. Now, if Palantir decides to flip the script here essentially breaks back above it and then turns this region into support from above, key word there, or words, I guess, from above. Very important. That is going to change their narrative very quickly. I think Palantir can get very bullish very fast, and this can be viewed as a very, very large false breakdown. But it needs to start turning that region into support from above. 125 to 130, guys. Break higher, reject, come down, turn this into support. That looks fantastic. This is a false breakdown. Get ready for a ripper to the upside. That is what you want to be looking at. If you're a bull, if you're not, if you're a bear, or you're being a cautious bull, or whatever the case may be, you definitely do not want to see this being continued, being treated as a resistance from below as we did today. So, as far as I'm concerned, this could just be a simple bearish retest into lower until we start seeing those signs of breaking out and then turning it into support from above. That's the key thing you're looking for moving forward. Robinhood. Yeah, looking fantastic. 8% on Robinhood. Had a nice little kind of event today. If you didn't watch it, it's mainly crypto related, but nonetheless. We talked about Robinhood yesterday. We mentioned that it's holding the 100/99 psychological level very nicely. The 9 EMA is holding very nicely. We got that beautiful follow through over here. I mentioned that you can probably see closer to 108 to 112. Here we are, pretty much hit it right in the sweet money. Came up to almost 110, so almost right in the middle of the zone. And it's looking great. Any drawdowns from here, I'd watch for about 103 plus as support. But essentially, once this name can really start closing candles above 110 to 112, that should open up a move above to about 125. For now, I just view it as consolidating sideways in this sort of horizontal bullish flag setting up. As we essentially await the 9 exponential moving average to at least catch up a bit closer to price on the weekly. But overall, this chart looks absolutely fantastic, guys. Again, don't overcomplicate it. I've been telling you guys for a while now that as long as the 90s holds on the weekly, the chart looks very bullish to me. So it's just a matter of having some level of conviction behind it. It helps when the company is a company you actually know about and like. It does add to the conviction for me personally, and I assume most others. But it looks pretty solid to me, guys. The next target above which, once this finally breaks out of this consolidation, is 125. SoFi is turning the 9 EMA into support, which is good on the weekly. Still has some more work to do, right? The EMAs are still fully bearishly crossed, which is one of the reasons why you don't really see it just rocketing higher, like Reddit today, for instance. We talked about Reddit with my members for a while now. I told them just yesterday, by the way. Just yesterday, I mentioned Reddit looks ready to pop off very soon. And it did. Let me actually show you guys the post. Check this out. Hold on. A lot of members talk about Reddit now in my discourse, so I had to find the post that I made. I'm sure you guys believe me, whatever. Here it is. Okay, well, I found it, so it's just might as well talk about it since it's here. Reddit right here. Check it out, right? This was just yesterday, getting very tight here on the weekly. As the weekly EMAs are curling bullish. Again, this one is going to be very explosive very soon, and I lean bullish. Once it snaps 183, it should be a big mover, but if it closes below 150, then the setup starts to fall apart. Well, obviously, we went to about 200 today. So I bring that up because Reddit already had, let me just show you quickly. Reddit already had the weekly moving averages kind of curl. You can see nice little curling action. SoFi is kind of like like, I don't know, like right here or something like that. We're like right around this region right here. You know, SoFi needs one big push to the upside, because once it gets that push to the upside and it starts holding around here, that's going to start curling the EMAs even faster. And that's what gets them to flip bullish. And that shows strength in the stock. It shows that the bulls are retaking control, which is what is signified by the EMAs crossing bullish like that, right? That's what we're looking for. All that just to mean that SoFi, the reason it's not running like, you know, Hood has been running, or Reddit, it's just not there yet. It's not at the same stage yet. I think it's getting there. I do think it's getting there. It's just not there yet. Now, SoFi did still have a decent move of about 3%. It did have about, I think, 4% on the upper end of the spectrum, 4.5 or so. But it's still looking fine. It's still turning this region from resistance into support, as long as we pretty much turn this sort of, you know, mid to high 17s, 17.5 to 18 into support. I do want to see a round off higher and continue higher. Hopefully on some news, that'll be even better. But overall, any continued movement from here, I would see some rejections and resistances coming in the low 19s. We can reject from there, come back down, and then ultimately we can still think resume higher. But on the weekly time frame, once this starts closing weeklies above 20, I think that's when the fun really starts to begin. Meta. So Meta got some very big news this morning, popped it up. I mean, it was up way more than this. I think it was up closer to about almost 12% on the high point, closed at still a solid 8.5% almost, which is still great. I have Meta on my long term, so I'm very happy. But I do plan on adding on my shorter term accounts as well very, very soon if I see the strength I want to see. So I've been talking about Meta with my members for quite some time, right? I gave members, you know, Meta when it was at this trend line right here, right? Nice little support here. It was also dancing very, very closely and briefly, but, you know, kind of on thin ice, but it was holding this green Fibonacci's as well very, very nicely. Thin ice, but it held it nonetheless. A nice follow through. So Meta is a few things I'm looking at it, right? On the bigger picture here, right? If we're looking at it on the way bigger picture, yeah, let me go ahead and remove this for now. All right, I'll keep it. So the bigger picture on Meta is this, right? And this is going to be watching this trend line up here and this trend line right here, which is essentially this, or the monthly even, is just one big bull flag setting up. I do lean bullish on Meta. I am a bull on the stock. I mean, I don't see why you would be or would not be. But if you're looking for the bigger picture to really explode and for Meta to really explode, you're pretty much waiting for this upper trend line on the weekly to snap. Now, again, this may take some time. It's not going to happen tomorrow. This is probably going to take at least a few more weeks. Honestly, maybe even a few more months. Who knows how long it'll take? But that's what we're looking for. The sooner the better, of course. That is going to be essentially, if it happens sometime within the next, you know, couple months or so, about 670 plus. Once this can break above 670 plus and start holding above that, fantastic, guys, fantastic. I think it begins as bull run to fresh all-time highs. But until then, on the shorter term picture here, on the daily, what do we have? Well, it's still pretty solid. This is the nice massive trend line that has been rejecting us for quite some time. Pretty much anytime we get anywhere near it, we just get smacked down pretty aggressively. Now, today, this gapped up above a key resistance level. So moving forward on Meta, there's a few things I want to see. Any drawdowns that Meta may or may not see moving forward, you know, tomorrow, early next week, needs to start turning this sort of 600-ish range, which was a nice area of support here, and then resistance here. I want to see this region turn back into support, which was also about 2 days low, right? This 595 to 600 region. This needs to be turned into support. This needs to be a nice, quick, simple retest, and then we ultimately resume higher off of that. That's what we're kind of looking for on Meta moving forward, guys, and that's what I'll be watching for. Once this can start closing, even especially above the 630s, it looks even better for that move closer to about 670, which is that level we talked about on the weekly. But for now, you're watching for about 600 to the very, very high 500s, like 590s, to hold that support on any potential retest. Meta, Netflix. Again, this stock has been one of the more poopy doopy stocks in the market. No questions asked. I still love the company. It's still one of my favorite companies in the market. You know, again, that might be a hot take nowadays because the stock has fallen a lot. You're not allowed to say good things about a stock that's fallen a lot, guys. You know the drill. You know how it works. If a stock falls, you have to be bearish. It's the only way it works. Now, with that being said, obviously, you know, fundamentally, I'm very bullish, but, you know, technically speaking, yeah, it's in a bearish trend. There's no question about it. But it is at a substantial inflection point here, guys. This is the one I've been talking to my members about for a while now. This was the 2021 all-time highs back here, right? We got some resistance around it here, and now we pretty much came down and retested that, you know, this week's low and last week's low, or very close to it, very, very close to it. Also, we have this trend line right here that you can see we bounced off of, right? This was back in the 2022 bear market lows. We bounced off of it here for a major bottom, and now we're pretty much bouncing it off of it, I should say, 2 weeks in a row. Okay, not bad. So moving forward on Netflix, what I'm looking at, also, by the way, I should say one more thing on the weekly, is the 200-day moving average on the weekly is sitting at $70 and change. A lot of confluence sitting here between $69 to about $72, guys. So definitely some level to watch here for sure. No questions asked. Now, The daily, you're looking for two quick things, guys. You're looking for 75 to get reclaimed and held as support, and also simultaneously, kind of like NVIDIA, you're looking for this to break with this trend line, right? So pretty much right around the 75 region. Once this snaps, I think Netflix can finally wake up, at least to a certain extent, even if it's a short-term bounce back up to even the low 80s. But that's the thing you're looking for, guys. Once 75 is broken above, held, reclaimed, and turned especially into support, and this trend line snaps, all pretty much around that same level, I think Netflix wakes up. But nonetheless, thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.